and welcome to another episode of the Marco Podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode. Today, I have a guest on the show, and I will be talking with Cortney Kaveh. Cortney is a financial coach who helps self-employed families organize and transform their finances so they can save money, pay off debt faster, and start building wealth. She empowers clients with financial literacy, guidance, and close accountability. She is super passionate about helping people create effective, lifelong financial habits to reach their money goals now and in the future. So let's welcome Cortney. Hi, Cortney. How are you?
Hi, Angel. Good. Thank you so much for having me. Super excited.
Thank you so much for being here. I am so happy to have you here. Is there anything else that you would like to share before we get started?
No, I'm excited to just share with your audience just all about entrepreneurship. I know it can be a crazy journey, and if I can share anything that'll make that a smoother ride, then I'm happy to be here.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much. Like I said, I'm happy to have you here and drop some nuggets of knowledge on us. So, how long have you been a financial coach and how did you get started?
I've been a financial coach for about 3.5 years now, but I've been on my personal finance journey for about 10 years now. And how I got started was I worked in retail coffee for about 11 years.
Okay.
And decided to stay home with my kids. I had my second one and just decided to stay home after that. A year goes by of that, and I was ready to get back to work and use my gifts that I know I had. I know it was important to be with the kids, but also I wanted to feel fulfilled professionally too. And I just loved personal finance, coaching others. My family had paid off about $145,000 of debt in 4 years and 9 months. And so people all along that journey were asking how you do that. That sounds crazy. And I'm like, it can be done. And so it was a very natural transition into financial coaching. And so I took Dave Ramsey's financial coach master training, and that got me started with just the training I needed and starting my business from there.
Okay, cool. And so are you I know there are like Dave Ramsey certified coaches. I may be saying it wrong. Is that right? Are you one of them?
Yes. So I'm a Ramsey preferred financial coach. So I'm affiliated with Ramsey, but I have my own business. Yeah.
Okay, got you. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the Pay Yourself First playbook?
Yeah. I'd love to tell you about it. So I mostly coach self-employed families. And so if you are someone who has ever worked for yourself, whether it was gig work or 1099, or you have your own business, you know that it can be quite a financial roller coaster at times. You've got high months, you've got low months. You are wondering, if you do make a budget and you're here and you're a budgeter, how do I even make a budget with fluctuating income? And so what I did was I bottled up all the stuff that I teach one-on-one when it comes to business finances and put it into a course so that people who have a business or work for themselves can learn to organize and prioritize their business finances instead of this. What I see most of the time, Angel, is a very reactive approach to the business finances. It's, when I need money, I just take it out of the business real quick and then pay that bill. And then whoop, that one pops up. I'm gonna pay that bill, versus getting intentional and getting ahead of your money, knowing what's coming up and paying yourself first of all, sending aside money for taxes and putting guardrails around your business expenses so that you can operate profitably and it's not ultimately a hobby, but a real business.
Okay, that makes sense because I hear so many business owners, especially when they're first starting, they're like, I can't afford to pay myself, or, I only paid myself such and such this month, but then I had to turn around and put it right back in the business. And I have also heard, business owners saying, okay, well, this came up, I'm just going to take it out the business account and put it right back in there. But I know that when it comes to like taxes and like you said, all of that, like that gets a little dangerous with moving the money back and forth and taking it out and using business money for non-business related things. So
yes. And you mentioned a business account, and some people that I've worked with and I know they don't even have a business account yet. And so like you said, we can't be commingling funds. And when we first get into business, we don't know that. We're just focused. We just need to make money. I got this thing, I got to go make money now. But what I'm here to say, and as you get more mature in business, you start to realize, I need to have things cleaned up. I need a business account. I need personal account, no commingling. I need to be paying into taxes, all that fun stuff that we don't always do right at the onset when we start our business.
Right. Yes. No, I definitely agree. Like you said, you just jump into it, and there's so much that goes on behind the scenes and so many things that happen. And most of the time, people are just like, okay, I need to make money. They don't think about all the smaller things that go with it. So, and like I said, a lot of times people don't even get to pay themselves. They definitely don't pay themselves first if they pay themselves at all. So,
Exactly. And I've heard a lot of business gurus even say, "Oh, don't worry about paying yourself now. Just build the business or you get to pay yourself whatever's left over." And I hear it and I'm like, oh, "No, that is a recipe for burnout." We start our businesses because we are so passionate about something or helping people in a certain way or having a certain product that will make the world better or people's lives better. And then if we're constantly under compensating ourselves or not compensating ourselves at all over time, I have found that absolutely leads to burnout. If we worked for anyone else and they paid us what we were paying ourselves or not paying ourselves at all, we'd like, forget this, and we'd walk away. So
exactly. You took the words like right out of my mouth. Like I was thinking that, like you so took the words out of my mouth. And I remember when I first started, I actually had a crafting business, and I always felt like I was like overcharging people. And so I actually used a pricing calculator. And then it's like, how much do you want to pay yourself an hour? So I was like, well, I don't know. And like the amount that I put in to pay myself an hour, as you just said, if a job had have offered me that, I'd been like, they are crazy. I am not working for that much an hour. Like that's not even worth my time. But when you're the business owner, you don't think about it like that. So
yeah, and when you start in business, you don't know what you don't know. So if you're listening to this and you go, "Oh my gosh, that's me," or "I'm doing some of these things," or "I'm doing all of these things that she's describing," do not feel bad. It's that I'm so happy to come on here and just to lay it out and say, hey, business owner, if you are in business, no matter if you're new or you're a few years in, here's what you should be doing with your business finances and why.
kind of open up to the next question. What would you say is a good way, whether somebody, so for someone who's just starting out, let's start with that. For someone who's just starting out, what what are some of the first things they should do to make sure that they're getting their money properly organized for their business?
I would even back up a second and say, if you are not using a personal budget, first of all, forget about the business finances for a sec. If you're not using just a simple personal budget, I would start there. List out all of your expenses. And we kind of do it backwards when we're a business owner. I'm telling you to list out the expenses for part first, because then that will inform what the income needs to be, right? So what are all of your expenses for 1 month? And then you can kind of reverse engineer how much you've been paying yourself if you're not sure. If you're like, Cortney, I haven't been paying myself, I just take money out. That's fine. You can look back on a prior month and see, okay, how much did I withdraw to pay personal bills? And then you can use that as a starting number for your income. And so that's where I would start, Angel, is develop a personal budget first and get a grip on the flow of your cash in your bills. So starting there. So we call it a zero-based budget. Income minus expenses and savings equals zero, just meaning that you're giving every dollar a job and a purpose so that you can start being intentional with your money. Because up until this point, you may have been operating reactively. And that's very common.
Okay. Thank you for that tip, Courtney. I appreciate it. If it's, let's say it's a business owner who's been in business for years and they're either not paying themselves or they're paying themselves very little, what tips would you give for them?
That's a great question. So we have to start with where you're at. What have you been paying yourself or taking out of the business for personal purposes, just as it is? So and then how much have you been setting aside or paying into taxes? How much have you been spending on expenses? So we have to write down those numbers, and you can take a 1 month snapshot. You can take a look back at 6 months, 12 months, and see what has my average been and start there. Because what'll happen a lot of times, Angels, that we'll do that, we'll get those numbers as a percentage and we'll look and see, oh my goodness, I've been spending 97% of my revenue on expenses. I've been paying myself 2%. I've been setting aside 0% for taxes, right? And then maybe I put 1% into savings or something. So that's a very real scenario I've seen several times. So we have to know, where are you starting?
Okay.
From there, then we can move to increase those, change those percentages over time. Because if you're sitting here and you'd be like, oh, that would be really nice if I could pay myself 50% from my business. That's what I teach in my course.
Okay.
I would love to pay myself 50% from my business, but I've been paying myself 2%. How the heck do I get there? And so we have to see, how have you been operating in your business, and then identify what your percentages should be. And part of that's, I think, talking to your accountant too. How much should you be paying in taxes if you're not sure, or you've been paying in zero?
Okay.
And then iterating from there and giving yourself a raise over time, and putting better guardrails around your expenses. Because if you are overspending on expenses, that's your paycheck right there.
Right. That makes sense. And Courtney, you mentioned having an accountant. Is having an accountant something that you would recommend all businesses do? Or if somebody's like, oh, I'm really good with finances, like I can do it myself, do you recommend them doing it themselves or outsourcing that?
I recommend you at least do some sort of consultation with a tax planning person, some sort of tax expert, because how do you know how much you should be setting aside or paying into taxes? If what kind of taxes are you liable for? Federal, state, county? Are you supposed to be paying in quarterly, or are you okay to just pay in once a year? Have you been setting aside money each month in a special tax savings account to go towards these taxes so you don't forget or it catches you off guard? So I do recommend getting a tax pro in your corner to tell you what percentage of your revenue should be dedicated to paying the taxes. For example, I had a meeting. I decided to hire an accountant last year. Best thing I did. And he offered tax planning, and I could always reach out to him and say, am I on track? So he could very clearly tell me, Courtney, you need to pay in X percent to the IRS and X percent to the state of Oregon. And so that clarity for me was awesome, because then I could, if I was just a business owner listening to this podcast and I'm just setting aside 30% because I think that's what I should be doing, my rate total, I have to set aside 15%. So if I'm listening and I've been setting aside 30%, I could have been giving myself a 15% raise, right? Or putting that money into savings. So having that clarity can actually put more money back in your pocket, using that as an example.
Okay, no, that makes sense. And then as far as savings, how much would you recommend a business have saved as like their cushion in their nest egg? I know for personal, they say, I think it's like 3 months worth of your salary. So how much should a business owner have saved?
Oh, I love this question. So because of the fluctuating income that we talked about earlier, I recommend business owners have a special savings account called their Peaks and Valleys Fund. We have to have money set aside for the dry season of our business. We all have one in some way, shape, or form. And so the formula that I use is called income variance. And so we measure your income variance, and then we do 3 months of that. Let me give you an example.
Okay.
Let's say I want to be taking home, I want to be bringing in $5,000 of revenue every month without interruption. Okay, let's just say that's my number.
Okay.
Maybe I look back at the last 12 months, and a slow month for me, let's say, was 3,000, but I really need to be taking home 5, and 3 is, that's either going to make me too tight or put me into debt or something like that. So, or I'll have to deplete my savings, my emergency fund for emergencies, which I don't want to do.
Right.
This income variance, this padding we have over here for peaks and valleys, that's not an emergency. We know that's going to happen because we do go through dry seasons in our business, right? When it slows down. So if my ideal income revenue, let's say total revenue, is 5,000, and a slow month for me is usually 3,000, that leaves a gap of 2,000, right? So right. I recommend at least 3 months of your income variance in a peaks and valleys account. So $2,000 times 3 months, that's $6,000. So using that example, as a business owner, I would want $6,000 saved for expected fluctuations in income. I'd also love to have an emergency fund for my business. If you're in debt, we recommend having, $1,000 to start. But if you are debt-free, Having 3 to 6 months worth of business expenses is a great idea to keep in a emergency fund for your business. And what I mean by emergency is you get injured and you can't work anymore. You have a sick family member and you have to care for them and take time away from work. These are truly unexpected things versus your peaks and valleys fund is for expected fluctuations in income.
Okay. So Courtney, I just want to make sure that I have this right and just clarify. So my peaks and valleys account, that is for my dry season when I'm like, okay, I need that extra $2,000. So then that's when I go into that peaks and valleys account and I pull out that extra $2,000 to make it to my $5,000. Am I understanding that correctly?
Exactly. You're pulling from it on purpose so that your needed income can continue to flow month after month without interruption.
Okay, gotcha. And then my emergency fund is, like you said, if somebody gets sick or I can't work for a while, can I also use the emergency fund? Like if something breaks in my business, would that be part of it as well? Or should I have a separate account for that?
No, I mean, whatever you would qualify as unexpected. That's what we want through the emergency fund. You can, within your business budget, you can plan ahead for replacing equipment, or if you can see the writing on the wall and be like, my microphone is getting a little old and is crackly. I know I'm going to need to replace that. You can just plan for that in your business budget, but your emergency fund should be for true emergencies. So that's something you need to define with yourself. What is an emergency and what can I just plan for in my regular business budget?
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you, Courtney.
Yeah.
So what would you say is harder? Do you think it is harder to manage your finances or to be an entrepreneur?
Probably entrepreneur, because you have to manage your finances and wear like 10 million other hats, right?
Yes.
So, but the good news is both can be learned. Both can be learned. I was the worst with money. My mother still laughs that I'm a financial coach. Like, just to be totally honest with you, I spent all the money I had in my account. My husband would joke that if I had a quarter in my account, I would take it out and go get a bubble gum. Like he just, they would laugh at me. And so if anyone can turn around their habits and their mindset, you're looking at her. So both can be learned. You can learn to manage your money. You can learn to build a business when you've never had one before. Both are a lot of work, but I would say entrepreneurship in general may be a little bit harder because you should be learning to manage the finances, both personal and business. Plus, you're a marketer, you're the CEO, your customer service, you're all the things. Am I right?
Yes. Oh, you're definitely right. I was sitting there today. I had a lot of like podcast applications that I was going through, and I'm so grateful for. Like, I'm so excited that so many people want to be a guest on my podcast. So I'm like going through them and I'm making sure that I'm hitting everybody. And I'm just thinking, I'm like, at what point can I get an assistant? I need an assistant. I'm like, oh wait, probably need to start bringing in some revenue for myself first before I can go out, before I can go out and add anybody else to the team. So I'm like, okay, so right now, like you said, I am the assistant. I am everything. So yeah.
But that's actually a great point that you bring up, and that has to do with money. So at what point do I bring on some support? Should I be making more money first? And how I answer that is, by bringing someone on, let's say a virtual assistant, by bringing on the virtual assistant, how many hours per month or per week will that person be saving you? And can you replace what you were doing before with income producing activities? And see, will I actually, by outsourcing this work, will I actually be making more money, not only covering the fee of this VA, but also bringing in more revenue and then therefore paying myself more?
That's a very good way to look at it and to think about it. Like, how much could I be saving and how much could I be bringing in by hiring someone else? So yeah, that is, I didn't really think about it like that. Like, I guess it maybe was somewhere, because as you're saying it, I'm like, oh yeah, that makes perfect sense. Like, so maybe it was like in the back of my head, but in the forefront of your head, you're just not thinking about that. You're again thinking like, okay, I'm just not at the point now where I can hire somewhere where I can afford that. But you possibly could be if it's going to help you bring in more money. So thank you, Courtney.
And start small, test out the theory. Okay, if I even outsource 1 hour of work per week or 2 hours a week of work per month, and I do a little test, I spend the money and then I see how I plan intentionally how I'm going to use that extra time, and then I sign more clients. Boom, there you go. So you can do a little test too and kind of dip your toes in to see if it's worth it. You didn't know this was going to be a coaching session, but here we go.
I didn't, and I love it. I love it. That's why I like doing these episodes, because I learn a lot and I take notes, and I'm like,
Yes.
okay, that's a good idea. Why didn't I think of that before? But again, it's just that you have so much going on and you're wearing so many hats that sometimes things that are right in front of you, you're like, I don't see it because I'm so focused on trying to get this taken care of or trying to do something else. So I appreciate my coaching session. Thank you, Cortney.
Absolutely.
And so can you tell us a little bit more about your business and what exactly it is that you do on a day-to-day?
Yeah. So day to day, I'm mostly in coaching sessions. So one-on-one, I'm meeting with clients. I mostly work remotely. So we're meeting on Zoom, and screen sharing is a beautiful thing because we can screen share budgets and all that. And so we will do everything from creating an intentional spending plan. I mean, it's a budget, but I try not to say the B word because that freaks people out sometimes. But
yeah, I don't like it.
An intentional spending plan, Angel. And
Okay.
then and the money mindset piece to that too. A lot of people, my practice is very emotionally focused, and so people, mostly women, I would say, have just dealt with significant avoidance issues, keeping their head in the sand, sweeping under the rug, not talking about money. But then somehow it bites them in the butt. And so they're with me and they're saying, okay, I'm ready to confront this, which takes a huge amount of courage, by the way. And how do I get out of debt? How do I save money? What is this one foot in front of the other process to do all this? And so that's where we start.
Okay.
So we got budgeting, we've got savings. How much should I save for expected and unexpected things in my life? Because, those things tend to catch us off guard too. That Amazon Prime membership comes through, or Costco, and you go, dang it happens every year. Why didn't I put it in my calendar? Like, why am I surprised year after year after 10 years of this, right?
Exactly.
So just speaking from experience. So creating an proactive savings plan, if you will. And then we conquer debt. So we put together a plan with a month and a year. They'll be debt free with the plan that we've set. And so a big piece of this is habits and behaviors, naturally, because we can set the most beautiful plan in the world, right? But if we don't know how to achieve it, then it's all for naught. And so we focus on daily habits. Okay, I'm gonna set my budget, and it's gonna be realistic, and I'm gonna plan for fun too, and I'm gonna set rewards for myself when I reach certain milestones, and then I'm actually gonna check it before I spend money. Woo, instead of just, we go from bank balance budgeting, which is looking at the bank account balance. Do I have money? Yes or no? Okay, yes. If yes, I spend. We put that behind us and we look at our plan. Do I have money to spend on X, on Y? Oh, yes or no. So we move from bank balance budgeting to budgeting with the software, like zero-based budgeting, like I mentioned before.
Okay.
Yeah. And then on from there, that then allows us to shift into wealth building mode. And when I'm working with business owners, it's a lot of profit strategy. How do we get you more profitable? How do we get you to give yourself a raise and keep loving your business and not burn out in the process?
Okay, cool. Well, thank you so much, Cortney. I appreciate that. And I just appreciate everything that you have shared today and all the advice that you've given. And I definitely love the intentional spending plan instead of using the B word, because every time my husband says the B word, I'm like, sorry, I can't hear you. What'd you say? Oh, yeah. Sorry, I gotta go do something right quick. I got stuff that I gotta take care of. I can't talk about it, but maybe we can start saying intentional spending plan, and that might make me want to hear about it and talk about it. I can't make any guarantees, but I'll try.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So before we go today, is there anything else that you would like to share with the audience?
Yeah. I mean, if you've listened to us today and you're just saying, oh man, I'm now more aware that I need to do something about this. A couple of easy, an easy budgeting software you can check out is called EveryDollar. There's a free version. There's another, if you've tried budgeting before and you're a little more familiar with the process, YNAB is also a great tool. You need a budget, YNAB. It's an acronym.
Okay.
Monarch could be another great one. So just start somewhere. Just put one foot in front of the other. The first phase is awareness. So you're going to become aware of your habits and behaviors, and it might not be pretty. I remember when I first became aware, and I was like, what am I doing with my life? And then comes action, because then you're motivated because you want to do this, but you're over here and not sure how to get over there. And so, yeah, just like I said, one foot in front of the other. Like, you can do this. If you are a business owner and you are just wanting some support, you're like, yeah, that sounds great to give myself a raise, but my finances are a mess, I would recommend checking out the Pay Yourself First Playbook course so that you can start to understand what it is that needs to be troubleshooted and then move in the direction of profitability from there.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you so much. And Courtney, will you please tell everyone where they can find you at and how they can connect with you?
Yes, yeah. I'm on Instagram, Cortney.Kaveh. We'll link it in the notes because my name is not the easiest to spell. And then you can just go to northwestmoneycoaching.com, and from there you'll find all the things. So Thank you so much, Angel, for having me on today.
You're welcome, and thank you so much for being here. And yes, as she said, I will definitely link all of her handles and everything in the notes section so that you can find her. Bye, everyone. Bye. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Mod Code Podcast. I hope that you enjoy this episode and learned something from it. Be sure to share this episode with a friend, family member, colleague, or anyone that you think will enjoy it. Make sure you also hit the like and subscribe button. If you love the podcast, please leave us a 5-star rating and review on the podcast app you're tuning into. That helps others to find us and gets us listed in other shows' recommendations. And if you would like to financially support the podcast, you can click on the listener support link in the episode show notes. Thank you so much, and I'll talk to you next time.